Right. Thank you very much and good morning, members of the Fourth Estate. Welcome to the APTC. As you are aware, we've been here briefly, and we had a good meeting yesterday as members of the Security Committee in the Ministry of Interior to discuss issues that are grave and were raised against our staff. And today, because these were official allegations that were made, we had a brief meeting so that we can respond to those issues that were raised. And we have today been here representing the rest of the staff in the security sector. We have our Director of Criminal Investigation, Bwana Kenoti. We have our DIG responsible for the Administration Police Service, Bwana Gabo. We have our DIG responsible for Kenya Police Service, Bwana Mbogwa. We have the Inspector General of Police, you know him, Mr. Mutiambai. To my left, the farthest left, we have our Secretary to the National Administration, Mr. Osia, and to my immediate right, left, we have the Regional Commissioner for Nairobi to represent his colleagues here, Mr. Ruto Ku. And obviously this press briefing has been convened by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior to just respond to the issues that were raised by the Deputy President against our staff yesterday. So, Waziri, karibu.
Thank you, PS and my colleagues from the security sector who are here this morning. And thank you, members of the Fourth Estate Press, for coming along. And we remain very grateful to you for your constant coverage, our interaction with you as always when we have issues such as this. As we go along in this press conference, you will realize that for the first time in the history of our country and for the first time during this administration, I must frankly tell you we find ourselves in a very awkward situation, because in an organized society and in a respectable environment, it is very unusual that members of cabinet would talk to each other and answer each other through the press, such as we are doing, because we are here to respond to issues that were raised by His Excellency the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, who is not only a member of cabinet but a member of the National Security Council, where we sit together. But since he raised issues and put issues in the public domain and circumvented the administrative procedures that exist in government, for the sake of the country and for the sake of Kenya's friends and everyone out there, we are forced to do this, which is something we ordinarily would not want to do, because we believe that we should be decent and respectful enough to respect the offices we hold and the authority that has been bestowed upon us by the people of Kenya and the Constitution, so that we interact in a much more respectful manner than we have seen recently. The second point I want to make before I say this is that I've said somewhere before that the last 4.5 years or 5 years have been very tough for the security sector. We have lived through a very strenuous environment where a senior leader in the country, a member of the National Security Council and a member of cabinet, constantly attacks the security sector and makes, allegations against the security sector. And you can agree with me, my friends, that we have completely avoided a direct engagement or direct, conversation through the press. First, because we respect the Constitution of our republic and we respect the laws that govern how we work. Secondly, because we believe in the good order of society, and we have avoided for the last 4.5 years to 5 years, when we have had all these challenges, we have never felt it necessary to do what we are doing today. But look, it appears that such is life. So here we are, and we hope that we don't have to do this. Kenyans expect that we as their leaders will behave responsibly, solve whatever challenges we have responsibly within the institutions that we have, and avoid treating the country to a very bizarre theater and a very absurd way of engaging, where senior leaders complain about structures they're supposed to work with, and all go out to the public and excoriate or subject senior public servant to insults and ridicule in very disturbing ways. But therefore I will do my best to be as measured as possible and to be as respectful as possible, knowing as I do that we have a country to manage, we have an election ahead, and the country should not be treated to sideshows and the kind of theatrics that we have seen recently. His Excellency the Deputy President, who is also the presidential candidate for the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, made 4 allegations yesterday in his statement. 1, that the government and its senior officials have mobilized to campaign for Azimio Umoja, One Kenya Alliance presidential candidate. 2, that the national government administrative officers, especially chiefs and their assistants, are being mobilized to rig next week's general elections against the UDA presidential candidate through suppression of voter turnout and or buying or holding identification cards. 3, that the cabinet secretary and the principal secretary in the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government and government administrative officers in the Rift Valley, and they actually named 4 of our officers, I'm going to talk about them, have been holding meetings illegally and planning to provoke ethnic conflict in that part of our country. And 4thly, that the government, through the Communication Authority of Kenya and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, plans to interfere with the conduct of the general elections by disrupting the communication networks and the electricity supply. Number 1, as the government and its senior officials mobilize to campaign for any particular candidate, the answer is simply no. Number 2, have we instructed national government administration officers to campaign for any particular candidate? The answer is no. Have we been meeting chiefs in secret meetings and planning against the UDA presidential candidate? The answer is no. I mean, there's no evidence presented on that. Have the cabinet secretary, principal secretary, and senior Ngao officials been holding meetings and threatening chiefs to campaign for or support a particular candidate? The answer is no. No evidence is presented of this. They're just sweeping statements that are just made for the heck of it. And then finally, I'll talk very briefly about CAK. It's an independent institution. I'll just comment about that merely from the point of view of what our role is and what we know about that. But even that claim is not backed by any evidence. 1, the structure of the security management of the country starts from the highest national security organ, which is the National Security Council. The National Security Council is chaired by His Excellency the President. And I have to say here that I have expressed clearance from the President to do this press conference, because I couldn't if I didn't have clearance from the President to do it, because that is how an orderly country is run. 2, you go to the National Security Advisory Committee after that. And the National Security Advisory Committee is comprised of the technical officers, the heads of the security agencies, and the others, who manage the security institutions across the country. Then from there we go to the respective ministries, and from the ministries we go to the regions, from the regions we go to the counties, from the counties we go to the sub-counties, all the way to the sub-locations. Right from the sub-location, the assistant chief chairs the security committee at the sub-location level. The chief chairs the security committee at the location level, and all the way to the National Security Council. the security sector is a very regimented arrangement. You don't have the freedom and you have no capacity to work outside of it. When we take decisions, for example, if we have to communicate policy to the chiefs and to the DCs and to the regional commissioners, it has got to flow directly from the National Security Council. I am not aware, because there doesn't exist a discussion that has happened at the National Security Council authorizing us to meet the chiefs and instruct them to campaign for anyone. And if His Excellency the Deputy President has got evidence to that effect, he should provide it to the public, because that evidence would reside in the minutes of the National Security Council or in the agenda of the National Security Council, and then that communication will be translated in a memo by the head of the public service, who is a secretary to the council, which I have not seen. I am not aware of it. Have public servants been mobilized to campaign for any particular candidate? The answer is no. Because that information would be resident in a circular by the head of the public service. I have not seen one. I have not seen any communication from the Public Service Commission itself to public servants. And public servants are all governed by a code of conduct, which is very strict on how these things are supposed to be done. Thirdly, my friends, all meetings we have with chiefs and assistant chiefs are held in public. We either meet in county commissioners' offices, in church halls, in schools. The most recent meeting that PS Kibicho and I had with the chiefs of Nyamira and Kisi was held at Tombe Girls, in a public school, a public place where everybody can access. Government is not a secret society. You know, these allegations create an impression that government has been operating like a secret society. Government is not a secret society, which meets somewhere under a tree and conspires. We're not engaged in any conspiracy against anyone. And the things we do are guided by an agenda. And in most cases, we take notes of this. And I am not aware, and we have never had meetings anywhere to instruct chiefs or instruct assistant chiefs to do whatever needs to be done. Fourthly, which I think is an important point to make, the interface between national government and county governments in the implementation of public policy is done through the National Government Administration. We have worked with chiefs on and assistant chiefs and our deputy county commissioners on 100% transition. We have worked with them on the war against FGM. We have worked with them on the gender violence. We've worked with them on a huge number of issues before. And we hold these meetings openly. Right now, as I speak to you, the Ministry of Health is running a campaign jointly with the Ministry of Interior on the triple threats, the resurging numbers of HIV/AIDS cases across the country, gender violence, sexual harassment, and so on. And the Ministry of Health officials and health parastatals are teaming up with chiefs and assistant chiefs across the country to hold meetings, such as happened in Kiambu last week, and the meetings are taking place across the country. If you see chiefs and assistant chiefs meeting with public health officials, that is what they are discussing. And all these people going there, how can it be that we go to those meetings to discuss elections or voting for this person or the other person? There's nothing truthful about this. All these are just lies. Plainly speaking. Have the PS and the CS been involved in mobilizing chiefs and intimidating them? How can you do it? Because we are bound by our constitution, we are bound by our law. We work in a manner that we know we must be accountable for the things we do. And for anything we do, we can and will be called to account, on anything we do. I am not aware, and actually I can speak authoritatively, that my peers and I have not engaged in these kinds of things. Every time we have had meetings, we sit down with these wonderful people to review security deployment, to do, planning for the country, to ensure that, our people are being sorted out and are being managed well across the country. I was in Molo the day before yesterday, where we had a large meeting looking at what are the issues that we have to deal with? Are we prepared? Are we ready? With all the 14 county commissioners and all the 14 county police commanders and the teams that form or comprise the Rift Valley. And we've done this the week before I was in Coast Province for the same reasons. We are not meeting to tell chiefs what to do. Finally, suffice it to say, chiefs are not children. They are not 12-year-olds to be guided and to be dictated upon. I can tell you for a fact, about half of the chiefs and assistant chiefs in the country are even older than me. Some of these are seasoned people, very experienced people, very well trained. We have relied upon them on a number of issues. Now, it's very sad, honestly, that the Deputy President singles out 4 of our senior administrators. The County Commissioner for Uasin Gishu, Mr. Kihara, the County Commissioner for Nakuru, Mr. Mbui, the County Commissioner for Trans Nzoia, Mr. Ojwang, and our Regional Commissioner for Rift Valley. And to make allegations that are not substantiated, my friend, even the most rudimentary way of addressing issues, even the most basic of common senses, will tell you that if you allege that a meeting has taken place, supply the dates and say, on 17th of July, at this particular time, Mr. Mali Mohammed, the Regional Commissioner for Rift Valley, met A, B, C, D. How can you, honestly, make claims like those against senior administrators, just sweeping claims that you cannot substantiate, you are not able to prove that these people are having night meetings, they are moving around and so on and so forth? It is unfortunate that is coming from a senior leader in the country. We know these officers, they work for us. We work with them. We have faith in these 4 officers. Our 47 county commissioners in the country, our 8 regional commissioners in the country are some of the senior-most officials in the national government administration. Some of them are very highly trained and experienced people. Mr. Maalim, who's being insulted in this case and being accused falsely, is a decorated officer. Our new regional commissioner for Rift Valley, Mr. Mali Mohammed, is a decorated officer who has an impeccable record, and his file is there for everyone to see, who has served as county commissioner in more than 6 counties in the country. His performance has been rewarded even by the Public Service Commission. He has been named the Public Servant of the Year before, even before we ourselves started working with him. This is a decorated officer who is now being accused of doing illegal things. It is unfair that you would treat public officers in this kind of manner. And on that note, I want to say this to all my brothers and sisters in the National Government Administration and in the police service. At all ranks, from Assistant Chief to Regional Commissioner, from police constables to the Inspector General, you are the people who have held this country together during times of challenge such as this. Unfortunately, we cannot speak like them, like the politicians speak. So we don't have the licenses of language to insult people and say all manner of things. Let us mind our country. There's a country to manage. Ignore these things. Do not be discouraged and do not be heartbroken. Do not be disheartened. We will all be accused of all manner of things. I know that at a time like this during the campaign, nerves are raw, and people are now venting their frustrations, their bent-up emotions and disappointments and so on are all now being vented, and the anger is being projected on public administrators. Let us carry on. Many of my senior colleagues, like the regional commissioners, Mr. Thuku is here, have done elections more than I have done. Some of our senior police officers who are standing here with me, our Deputy Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mbowa, DIG Gabo, and all these wonderful people, our own Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kinoti, you've done elections before, more than now. Let us just persevere, remain focused on the work that we have to do, and deliver for the country. That is the work we have at hand. And we cannot speak like those people. We don't have that license of lying, to the public and saying things we cannot justify. Unfortunately, though, I have also noted cases where members of that group of politicians even try to single out the chiefs and name chiefs and try to profile chiefs and so on. On that particular one, I want to be very frank. Mr. Kinoti knows this. We are documenting every one of these criminal activities because profiling public servants like chiefs and assistant chiefs, circulating their numbers and accusing them falsely, is endangering the lives of our public servants. These crimes are not covered by the statute of limitation. Some of these leaders need to know they can and will actually be held to account at some point in their lives for some of these things. People have to be responsible in the things they do. I can't stand up in the country and point out and say Mr. Gabo is doing ABCD when I have no evidence. So that now I incite the public against the DIG in charge of administration. This is irresponsible behavior. And this is unconscionable conduct. But for some of these leaders, they think it's fair game and it's okay to say the things they are saying and to do the things they are doing. But it's unfortunate for our country. Finally, and I'm going to give you a copy of this statement. Kenyans need to know this. The government has not mobilized any public servants to campaign for anybody, period. Chiefs and assistant chiefs have not been mobilized or instructed to campaign for anyone, period. We do not operate that way. Our responsibility is defined by the law. We are working very hard, working with fellow Kenyans to ensure we support the IEBC to conduct free and fair elections. That we shall do with commitment. We will look neither to the right nor to the left. We will remain focused on that goal to ensure that we serve our people. I am not aware of any scheme or any effort to influence the Communications Authority of Kenya or any effort to influence the Kenya Power and Lighting to switch off power. Sometimes in a civilized world, some of these claims, I find them too cheap and too ridiculous to even think about. And when they come from the mouths of senior leaders, you sometimes don't know whether to laugh or cry. It's so petty to imagine that an organization that enjoys such institutional autonomy and protection by the law, like the Communications Authority of Kenya, would resort to such primitive things like, interfering. We have said this several times before. I'm as Minister for Interior, I'm the one who would invoke the Public Order Act. We have said it several times because this is a matter that we have all discussed and agreed. We are not going to shut down the internet. We are not going to interfere with social media and so on. Why would we do that? Kenya is come of age. Kenyans are mature people. I agree with His Excellency, the Deputy President. It's true, Kenya has a shortage of fools. And I think that applies more to some of those petty claims that he's making and so on than anything else. Because really, how would you, Communication Authority of Kenya, with the reputation they have. By the way, people forget, we sit at the International Telecommunication Union as a country, at the ITU. We are very respected at the ITU. Kenya has taken its place of pride and honor in the ICT sector in the globe. How would we resort to doing some of those petty things like, shut down the internet, or CAK has been instructed by who? To do what? There's nothing, there's no evidence in any of those claims that have been made. And I think at best, and this is my conclusion, Kenyans should just ignore those things, treat them with the extreme contempt they deserve, and focus on the election day. Let us go, like law-abiding citizens, queue, vote, elect our leaders, and wait for what the IBC will tell us. Our democracy has come of age. This is a wonderful country, and God has been gracious to us. We will do our bit, as I believe every Kenyan is determined to do their bit to ensure we have a free and fair election.